So what do you see are the biggest influences of affecting health and longevity?
Yes, absolutely. I see all the factors that I mentioned in the last question are the important ones to have long-term health and well-being and longevity. And it's sleep, eat, and exercise, because that's the base of how we for our life. That's our body. But we also need regularity, because our bodies needs the rhythm, and our brains, they are full of biological clocks that goes for when to sleep, when to eat, and all the hormones and all other things in the body. And they want us to follow them. And of course, we can eat whenever we want, because we have that possibility. But that's going to break the rhythm of if we don't eat with our rhythm. So when those clocks are out of rhythm, that's when we get ill. So regularity is extremely important. And also, another thing for longevity is having a social network, even if it's a small one. We need connection with other people, because we are herd animals. And that is extremely important for longevity. There are studies.
That's one of the things I think is critical. You said is that when you were saying they, who is the they you were referring to that cause all these things?
What do you mean by that? I mean everybody.
So we were talking about, you were saying these all the things that people are doing and doing this in the mental clocks and so forth, and you said they are wanting us to do these things. So who is influencing?
The clocks wants us to do this. Your brain wants you to have it in a regular form. And if we don't do it in that regularity that the brain tells us to, then they get out of rhythm, and that's when we get unhealthy, because they are out of rhythm. They mess with the biological processes for how we function inside.
Perfect. Okay, so those are the biggest influences that you see that are playing havoc with a lot of the things that we're doing.
Yes, how we take care of our bodies, and if we do it as biology wants us to do it for the most of the time, and also to have friends. There are so many studies with on longevity where you can see that this part of having friends and being seen is extremely important for health.
And that's part of the other side of what is influencing. So it's this circle of friends that is a big influence on what's happening inside us as well, Doctor. Correct?
Yeah. And of course, you need to have friends who are good for you, because you can also have friends. If you have 10 very negative friends who tells you all the bad things and puts you on the wrong side, you're going to be going downwards. You want people who lift you up.
Excellent. Yes, that's the influencers. Excellent. Sora.
Oh, well, this is easy. I agree with everything that Dr. Sorensen said. I mean, she really said it really well. She presented it really well. What I'm going to do is take the other side. So how do you get to where Dr. Sorensen wants you to be? So just for the listeners, I really believe, even though this sounds really boring and I sound like a real educator, I think it's very important to get in alignment with yourself. I think it's very important to create a more than less disciplined day. So for example, myself, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, regardless of anything, is I meditate, because I must connect with the higher power in order to set myself straight, because everything for me comes after that. Once I feel centered in prayer, then I proceed with other processes. Then I go through my day, and if I'm having a rough time, I always carry prayer in my pocketbook. to recenter myself. And it's always the same prayer so that I have a base to come back to. Then I do my day, and I really have a sign in my bathroom. It says, every day is its own unique adventure. And I believe I'm a big believer in social network. I'm a big believer. I've been journaling forever. I'm a big believer in journaling because the thing is, you're you, and that's it. And you've got to get to know who you are so you can find your best alignment. And you've got to get your sleep. So I have a regulated system for that as well. I try my best to be in bed by a certain time. I know I need downtime. And then I always do a gratitude journal. Before I go to bed, I always do at minimum 3 things that I'm grateful for that day, no matter how difficult the day. And another suggestion is if you don't want to write gratitude, then just write resistance to gratitude tonight, because I think it's very important in life, not only to look at the pluses, but to also look at your resistance to whatever you're resistant to moving forward in. So then you can say to yourself, why am I resistant to thinking that I had gratitude today, that something good happened to me today? So I'm very big on looking at both sides of the coin. One, setting up a structured day as best as possible. And I agree with what Elena said about taking time for yourself. Even if you're on the train or the bus or sitting in traffic, you should have prayer or some kind of meditative words in your pocketbook so that you can recenter. I'm all about staying centered, but to stay centered, you have to know who you are. To know who you are, you have to see a therapist, journal, or do my programs. So
No, I think that's beautiful. When I was in Cub Scouts, and when I was 8 years old, one of the exercises was keep a diary. I have kept a diary of every day since I was 8 years old. And at the beginning, it was just activities. Then it started being, what are my thoughts today? How am I thinking about stuff? So I think I get chills when people talk about that because it's such an amazing way to get to know you. And I think, what Dr. Annika was talking about is the people that are around you. When you know yourself, you can tell if the people around you are contributing or draining. And I like the thing about the journaling. That's just perfect. Okay, Dr. Larry, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
may I just say one more thing? Also, one of the things that I do in the evening with the gratitude is I do a brain dump, because this is my attitude. I put in my day. I did the best I could. If I've been aggravated, I actually write down, okay, person X aggravated me. What's the next step when I see person X? But if you're not, and I really have it planned, but if you're not in alignment with yourself, if you don't keep a journal, if you don't understand what your subconscious is telling you, that you're never going to understand unless you keep a journal or see a therapist or use a program, you're always going to feel stuck. And it's really a choice. It's really a choice. Thank you.
Perfect. Dr. Larry, what are the greatest influences?
Well, I've thought about that question. 2 things come to mind. One is what I refer to as stinking thinking, negative thinking, particularly with seniors. I've actually written 8 books, and my latest one is entitled "Senior Sex: Insights into Senior Sexuality." And in doing a lot of interviews and so forth, I can't tell you how many times I'll be talking to someone and a senior, and they'll say, "Sex? What's that?" As if I'm 65, I'm 70 now. That's something that you don't do anymore, and so on. And the truth of it is actually, if when's the last time you've seen a movie or something like that where they actually portray 2 seniors, having a sexual encounter? That doesn't happen, and so on. It's supposed to happen. It should happen, but unfortunately, for a lot of seniors, it doesn't happen, and that the problem is they believe it, and so they don't think it should happen, and therefore, and then that generalizes. Why should I be exercising? Who am I going to impress? I do. What do I need muscles for now? I'm 75. Etc. That's one. The second piece is that we tend to think even as adults and so on, like kids. When you ask a child, why didn't you do this? What do they say? I didn't feel like it. Okay? I didn't make my bed. Okay. Well, and for a child to say that and think that way, that's okay. But my response to that, and again, we've been talking about patients, clients who are reluctant to participate, is there's an old behavioral psychological maxim, and it goes like this: it is far easier to behave your way into a new feeling than to feel your way into a new behavior. And that's what a lot of people are trying to do. They don't do what people are suggesting because they don't feel like it. Well, sorry. My example, I'm in the gym at least 4 times a week, and I'll admit there are some mornings I get up and I don't feel quite like going to the gym. What do? I go anyhow. And when I'm on that bike and getting warmed up and so forth, how do I now feel about being there? Happy. So what did I do? I behaved my way into a new feeling rather than living according to this, I think, ill-gotten plan that I first have to feel like doing it before I do. And
That's great.
That's a real hindrance.
People wonder, how can I just choose to change something? And sometimes in my family, that there would be an argument and somebody would knock on the door. Hey, how you doing? That's how quick we could change things.